5-page decision. So Phil, yeah, I know Greg is still printing it out on his dot matrix print at his home. So Phil, what can you tell us about this decision? What it mean and what specifically the judge ordered to be done?
Yeah, so I did have an opportunity to review the whole all 85 pages of the decision. It's a very interesting decision, but we should just start out by reviewing what was ordered. So Judge Maida, the DC District Court, he ordered that preliminarily the no visa policy that the State Department has implemented as a result of the presidential proclamations will be stayed as it applies to diversity visa applicants and their derivative beneficiaries. It says that the defendants may not interpret or apply the proclamations in any way that forecloses or prohibits embassy personnel, consular officers, or any administrative processing center from processing, reviewing, or adjudicating 2020 diversity visa or derivative beneficiary applications, or issuing or reissuing a 2020 diversity or derivative beneficiary visa based on the entry restrictions contained in the proclamation. So it's saying that the consulates, embassies, they cannot interpret the proclamations in a way to suggest that they cannot issue or reissue, and that's important, reissue for those persons whose visas have expired. The decision also states that so the judge is being very careful with his language here. He's saying they can't interpret it to as a reason to deny it. He's also ordering them to undertake quote unquote good faith efforts to issue and reissue these visas to diversity visa applicants. He's enjoining the defendants from refusing to process, review, adjudicate, issue, or reissue diversity visas, specifically on the ground that they are not emergency or quote unquote mission critical exceptions. That was one of the arguments you guys know that the defendants were using for a reason not to issue diversity visa applicants their visas. And the analysis, and we can go into that later, was very interesting because the judge there was no reason given by the defendants as to why diversity visa applicants couldn't be included in the emergency or mission critical exceptions. The part that I find interesting here is that the court actually declined to order the defendants to reserve unprocessed DV 2020 visas past the September 30th deadline.
Yes.
Or yes, right. I was getting to that. But he said that he ordered the State Department to report not later than September 25th on those persons, those plaintiffs in our actions that have not been issued, and all DV 2020 selectees. So this does not just include plaintiffs. I've seen a lot of those questions on Twitter. It applies. That point, Phil. This applies to everyone in the whole universe of DV selectees. Importantly, but he did say, hey, make sure the plaintiffs are done first, okay? Make sure you get them. But I think this is the point that we need to mention. They selected more people than there were lottery winners. I hope everybody realizes that. There were about 80,000 people selected for the lottery, and only 55,000 get it. So, and that's because of a standard.
We don't really know how many started the application process, do we?
It was like 81,436 or something like that were actually
filed for immigrant visa processing, or
no? That's how many were selected in the lottery.
We don't know how many actually followed through.
We have no idea how many will move forward with.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, hopefully there aren't people left out in the cold, but you would be smart to get going.
Yeah, I think the court is going to. So the court, I mean, they specifically said that they're going to be looking at the number of unused visas at the report date on September 25th. So if there's still a large number of unused visas, we could see the court, implement some kind of increase on on the deadline or using the unprocessed visas for the DV 2020.
What I loved about that, Phil, is the judge did not, as he did in many other parts of the case, he didn't toss out the idea and say, I don't have authority to extend this. I think we gave him a way to extend the visas. He ordered them to nunc-pro-tunc them, which means retroactively approve them, or to reserve them for next year. And of course, there is in Congress a bill that would make sure that all DV numbers for 2020 are used. But again, important to point out, not everybody who was selected is going to get a green card because there's only 55,000 DVs, and they notified or they selected 80,000 people. And that's really about the average drop-off rates, about 40%, Greg, from my 30 years of experience of looking at it, because they will drop you off for a period being out of place. They are hyper focused on it. All right.
One more thing I do want to point out on that point is that the judge is going to be specifically looking for the plaintiffs as well. So the State Department needs to not just say how many were unused, but they need to report on every single one of these plaintiffs that might not have been issued, and they may need to give reasons for that as well.
And there were in total almost, I think, 920 plaintiffs in the lawsuit. How many did we have in our part of the lawsuit, Phil?
Ooh, gosh.